So good morning and welcome to today's new features in pressSIGN 12 webinar with me, Fred Thornton. Most of you know who I am. If you don't, I've been with Bodoni Systems for 18 years, and during that time we've been selling pressSIGN for just under 18 years. I have seen all versions of pressSIGN. We've added a lot of features over the years, so a lot of what we're adding nowadays is incremental. We're trying to broaden the scope of the product by moving into other areas of print, by adding features that complement that. So without further ado, I'll get going on the new features of version 12. So we released version 12 on June the 3rd, so last Monday. There are a couple of key new features that I'll run through. So the first is the OpenGPM web portal. We've then added chromatic adaptation, inter-instrument agreement. You can now make a job manually with a JDF file. There's an updated ink corrections view to make it easier to see what to do from further away. There's an updated estimates window. One of the biggest things we've been doing is to update the multicolor support, which we've had in pressSIGN since version 8. We've improved the softproof window, and one of the additions to updating the ECG support is that the brand color tool can now convert to 7 colors. So once I've run through those things, I'll then talk about the plans for the dot releases of version 12, because these are just the things that we could fit into the initial release. Okay, it's not just, we're not going to stop with version 12 there. If you've been working with pressSIGN for a while, you'll realize we kind of follow this process. We get a collection of new features together for the initial release, and then we keep adding for a period of time until we start thinking about the next release. So let's have a look at the new OpenGPM web portal. So as you should be familiar, pressSIGN GPM is short for Global Print Management. It's a version of the software. It's only available as subscription, and it enables a brand owner, manager, or print buyer to create a central data center that printers can then upload data to across the internet automatically. It's all hands off, it's server to server. Once configured, it just works. There's no messing around with files and exporting and importing and stuff. pressSIGN GPM is designed to be as easy to use for both parties in terms of the person receiving the data and also sending the data. Okay. However, there are other print quality management tools on the market, like ColorCert or Measure Color or Chroma Checker or PrintSpec, to name but a few. And there are brand owners who have those systems. So a lot of printers are getting a lot of frustration for a start, a lot of requests from different brand owners to use a certain type of print quality management tool. So OpenGPM is our offering to those users to say, if you don't want to spend money duplicating a product that you already have implemented, you know how to use, you've done all the training, etc., then you don't have to do that. Okay, it's a web portal. It allows the submission of a measurement file to a brand's scorecard server, a brand's pressSIGN GPM data center server. Okay, it's quite simple. You get given an IP address. You have to buy a license. It's a subscription license available from 1 month to 3 years. You have been given some username and password details for the brand owner's server, and using that, you can put that into the web portal, and then you literally click the new button, you select what press target it is, what client it's going to, and then you upload the measurement file. Within about a minute, the measurement is processed, a score is created, and a PDF made as well. The PDF then can be opened by the printer submitting the data to look at how the job has been scored by pressSIGN. Now, in terms of a contrast to the other systems that are available on the market, our subscription costs for the license that you need are significantly lower than compared to, say, a ColorCert scorecard server vendor access license. We chose a figure of about $1,000 per year. If you want to go for the yearly option, there is, as I say, there's 1 month to 3 years. The longer you buy, the cheaper it gets. Okay, but $1,000 a year compared to what ColorCert is, or X-Rite are charging for a vendor access license, is about 5.5 times cheaper. Okay, so X-Rite are charging about $5,500 per year for a pressSIGN user to upload data to a scorecard server. We think we're being fair. We'll leave the market to be the judge of that. The system accepts all of the files supported currently by auto mode, including PQX. So if a print quality management tool can export a whole job as a PQX file, then of course the printer only needs to upload one file. And as I've said before, the sole purpose of this tool is to avoid duplication and extra cost for printers, so that they don't have to run several different PQM applications if they don't want to. Of course, they could run pressSIGN. We would like them to run pressSIGN. It's better. We think it's better. It's more feature rich and it's a lower cost solution. But commercial inertia is what it is. Okay, so it's a very small feature. It's not actually a pressSIGN feature as such. It's a way of uploading data to a pressSIGN server. And we think it gives a fair option for other users. So that's all I'm going to say on the matter. So feedback on email, or we can talk about it towards the end, is fine. Okay. I did one of these last night, and chromatic adaptation is a term that not everyone knows. So what we're doing is we're adding a way for different viewing conditions to be configured in the pressSIGN press target. Okay, why would we do that? The graphic arts industry standardized on D50 with a 2-degree observer a very long time ago. The problem is that printing has moved into mixed materials markets, interior design, industrial applications, or print quality management has anyway. And photographic kind of instances as well, all of which use different viewing conditions. Photography, interior design, use D65. If you're standing far away from an object, you'd be a 10-degree observer rather than a 2-degree observer. So we've added the ability to select a different illuminant and observer, and to then be able to convert the target that you're using from D50 to that new viewing condition, which is the process of chromatic adaptation. The thing to remember is that a D50 lab value will be different under D65. Okay, so the point of this is to maintain the same visual appearance under a different viewing condition and score it in that way. Okay, so as I say, it's in the press target configuration. You simply select the options you want, and if you want to do chromatic adaptation, you tick the little box that you can see in the screenshot, having chosen the formula that you want to use out of Bradford, Von Kries, and Linear. I think Bradford is considered the best option, but people have different opinions on these things, so you have the different options available. Again, quite a simple feature in terms of what it looks like to implement, but of course it opens up the product to be able to be used in other print quality management applications. Okay, inter-instrument agreement is something that's actually been in the software for a while, but we never implemented it because of logistical factors. What we're talking about is the ability to measure the difference between all your different devices and select one of them as a master device so that all the others measure in the same way. Some people of an X-Rite persuasion would consider this to be Net Profiler. We're not charging anything for it for a start, so you're not having to pay however much Net Profiler is now, £1,500 or something like that, or $1,500 per year. There's no limit on how often you do this or how many devices you do it with. We are just offering a way of consolidating the measurement performance across a factory. Okay, so if you've got 10 devices, but one is you decide one is the control device or the master, you print a strip, and I would suggest it be a strip of many colors to get a broad cross section of the whole gamut. And that's one of the limitations of Net Profiler. They really don't use very many patches to do this, which of course means that the translation from one device to another works very well if you measure the same patches exactly, but as soon as you move away from those patches, it's not so accurate. Well, certainly that's what Tecon told me when I asked them whether they were thinking of a product like Net Profiler, which is why they don't have one. They don't see a need for it, but there is potentially, you know, a need if you've got different devices of different capabilities. You can see in the screenshot we've set an X-Rite Exact as the master, and then an i1 Pro has measured an average of 0.5 and a maximum of 1.5. The same chart, so there's a difference, you know, and if you've got different people around the factory using different devices, you want to try and minimize the differences between them. So again, a relatively small feature, but quite a big impact. Okay. So pressSIGN has supported JDF files since version 8 in auto mode, something like version 8 anyway. Because it was in auto mode, it meant you had to have a pro client, which of course not everyone needs, especially people that want to use a JDF file to start the job and then actually use a connected device of a handheld nature to actually take the measurements. So we've added an import tab in the new job window. You simply point to a hot folder or a folder where the JDF files arrive, as you can see in the screenshot, and then you simply double click on the JDF or PPF file that's there for the job. Now, what you have to remember is that JDF or PPF files don't include all of the settings that we want to use in the new job window. So our recommendation is that you use a template first to fill in the missing blanks, and then use the JDF or PPF to add the things from that into the job, like its name, etc. And that feature is available in all client versions, so digital, standard, and pro. So if you haven't got an auto scanning device like an IntelliChex or a Spectra Drive, and you're not importing measurement files from a closed loop system, but you do want to use a JDF file to start the job, then you don't need a pro client anymore, which saves you money. Okay, a couple of really quick ones here. A lot of people over the years have suggested we needed an easier way of being able to tell what to do on an ink key basis, or just a key or an ink basis if you're on standard, for example, from further away at a glance. So as you can see on the screenshot, the panel in the middle and on the left use the default viewing condition, which is to show the measured color in each ink key. The in-out or percentage corrections, all of those things can be adjusted in your preferences. Okay, for digital users, they only have in-out. Okay, digital licenses, because we're talking about verifying digital presses where you can't adjust the ink to change the color, it's appropriate that you only have in-out assessment. In standard, you get the corrections, but you don't get ink keys. You would see the color. Okay, now personally, I've got used to the color. Okay, because you can actually see the effect of contamination. If you've got one side of the press that's contaminated and not the other, you'll see that in the preview. But it's harder to see if there's something more important. Okay, which is why we've always had the numbers underneath, or the in or out, being in black or red. Now with version 12, you can set the right hand side view. So essentially it's using the scoring color from the traffic light system to give you an idea of which ones need to be moved more than others. Okay, so the default scoring, red is everything under 60%, Amber is between 60 and 70, light green is between 70 and 80, and dark green is 80 and above. Okay, just remember that, of course, that is configurable in the press target, so someone might have changed it to make it much harder to get a dark green. They might have changed it so that dark green starts at 90 and above. But anyway, it's a simple thing, just makes it a bit easier to see what is required more urgently than others. And again, some people wanted to be able to look at the estimates window in a three-dimensional plot rather than being a 2D plot. Okay, so the estimates window is showing you all the different measurements that are being used to calculate the best target density. The black line through the middle is the change of hue as we go from low density to high density. The plotted course or the trajectory of the ink as we apply more ink in terms of its color change. Now, only looking at 2D is sometimes a little bit esoteric. Okay, it's quite difficult to work out what's going on. So being able to look at it in 3D and move the background, move the plot around so that you can look at it from different angles, gives you a better idea. Just another little tool to make it easier to analyze the ink. Okay, so updated ECG support. pressSIGN has supported multicolor profiles since version 8. Some people didn't like the fact that the gamut extending colors were still considered spot colors. From a scoring point of view, from an ink unit point of view, etc. Obviously, they are truly process colors, but there are things that need to be done in terms of controlling those, controlling a 7-color press more accurately, and displaying them, etc. So the updates we've done so far, it's a work in progress. Okay, we've not finished, as I'll talk about more in the coming soon section at the end. But now, if you import a 7-color profile into the press target window, the extra inks will at least be shown in the window. Now, I know Paul Gestells is on this call. I agree with you, Paul, that still having them named spot in that screenshot is incorrect. I agree. I am trying to get development to move those inks over to be underneath the primaries and to obviously omit then the CMYK section, so that they're all in, they're all defined as the same thing. But developers will try and do things as easily as they want to. Anyway, the point is they're at least now shown in the press target as the solid ink target lab values. You will get one score for the whole job rather than having the CMYK and spot color scores broken down. Okay, so prior to version 12, you did get an overall score, but you had a CMYK and a spot color breakdown. All of these spot color patches are now scored in the total without being split into CMYK as process. Okay, and it makes more sense when you start talking about what we can do with the strips as well. Okay, because of course, to be able to control a 7-color press running 7 inks, you need to be able to measure the overprints of the gamut extending colors with other colors, which you can now do. You can make a strip and you can add a solid orange on top of a solid yellow or on top of a solid magenta. You can do anything like that, including triplex as well. I'm just gonna excuse me, a sneeze. Whether you would obviously print triplex ink process colors, including 3 of the spot colors, is kind of irrelevant in terms of the strip capability. By the by, they kind of give you a muddy browny grey. So it's possible that you could use them, but not probable. But you need to be able to test these things to see what colors they turn into in some scenarios. So as you can see in the screenshot on the right, you have the ability to put all 3 colors on top of each other and see what color that comes out as. Of course, that's going to give you some trapping issues and things like that, but you know, you're testing the printing condition rather than thinking about what you would do in a live job. Now, the point about the overprints, etc., is even though the targets aren't shown in the target lab values aren't shown in the secondaries section in the press target, they will be scored as overprints if you put them into the color bar. So you just need to think about that when you're designing the color bar. As I say, there are some other things that we will do to improve the ECG support. Sorry, I've just realized it says egg support in the title bar there. So it's an ongoing process, and we are still taking feedback on this. So if you have any thoughts, then email me and we can discuss that offline. Okay, so the soft proof window is included with the Pro and the Trends clients, and it's been there for quite a while. Some people use it, some people don't. However, one of the limiting factors has been in terms of its size and its capabilities. So now you can hide the menus in which you choose the various settings or show the ink profile at the bottom to make the window bigger, or as big as it can be. And then you can zoom in and drag the image around so you can focus on smaller sections in more detail. As you can see in the screenshot, the shells to the right of the split line are yellower than what they should be. Yellower is the printed, the printed data, the measurement from the sheet, and the left-hand side is what it should be. Now, with a color critical monitor like an ISO CG240 or whatever, that's well calibrated, those colors should match what's on your proof and on your printed sheets. Okay, so the preview is done in a color managed way. So some people have eliminated their hard copy proofs as a result, because they can do all of that on screen. Okay, and the thing about looking at it on screen is it's much easier to see the difference because you're looking at the same place on screen, whereas you put 2 sheets up against each other, you've got ambient light conditions to consider, possibly contaminating and giving you metameric effects from one to the other. And then actually, when you're reviewing two sheets, you're not really looking at both sheets at the same time. You're looking from one to the other, and our brains aren't very good at remembering color. So on-screen assessment is actually a lot easier to see the difference. So we would say think about using softproof. Okay, and then finally, this wasn't actually in the initial release version, but it has been added in the builds since last Monday, which is to say the brand color tool that we've had in the software for a few years. I think it was added in version 10, has been updated to work with multicolor profiles as well. So if you're a digital printer and there are spot colors in the job and you don't quite know what the separation should be, maybe you don't have a color server that's going to do this for you, but you can check in pressSIGN before going on press, and it will give you a list of different separations and how well they match the target using the software. So as you can see in the screenshot, I've chosen Pantone 2018C. I've enabled the OGV checkbox. I've got a 5% minimum dot and 3 colors maximum, 3 channels maximum. And the lowest Delta separation is 0.7, that's Delta 2000, using 53% yellow and 91% orange. It's a little bit darker, a little bit less red, and a little bit less yellow. But it's pretty much there. Now, we could get one Delta E using just 95% orange, which of course saves us about a third of the percent of that ink mix. Sorry, not a third of percent, a third of the total, sorry, 33%, 35%, something like that. So we're carrying a lot less ink and we're pretty much at the same color. In fact, actually, the orange by itself is a bit redder, but slightly darker. So you pays your money, you takes your choice on that one, really. So it's just a tool to help in those kind of situations, if we're wondering. And that is included in every version, every client version of pressSIGN. Okay, so those are all the new features that are in pressSIGN 12 as we speak. However, we haven't stopped there. Okay, obviously, ID Alliance decided to drop a bit of a bombshell at the start of the year by announcing that they were completely replacing G7 with G7 Plus without having told anyone about it prior to the announcement. So we will be adding G7 Plus support in 12.1 at some point over the summer. Going back to the ECG updates, we will add CTV for the CMYK inks, which essentially is saying we will mirror the same curve shape as the orange, green, and violet using SCTV to avoid the confusion that printers have when they look at a standard Murray-Davis based equation for the CMYK giving us 15% dot gain on a mid-tone-ish, okay, compared to a completely linear dot gain curve for SCTV on orange, green, and violet, because that gives us a smooth color change from tint to tint for those colors. We're just trying to eliminate the confusion that arises as a result of that. Now, some people say, why can't we have the Murray-Davis based equations for the orange, green, and violet? And the answer is it's possible, but you wouldn't end up with a smooth vignette in terms of consistent color change throughout the tint range, because those inks haven't been designed in that way. But it's open for discussion. Okay, another feature that we've been promising, which will hopefully go into 12.1, is the ability to change the press to achieve NPDC rather than adjusting the curves. So NPDC based ink corrections. Now, you still need to get pretty much as close as you can using the curves to start with. Okay, but then if it's just a fraction out, rather than having to remake a set of plates and update the curve and remake a set of plates, a few ink corrections here or there will bring the gray balance in line while still keeping the well, that's the only focus really is getting the gray balance to become neutral, just by tweaking the inks a little bit rather than having to replate everything. Okay, again, going to ECG, CXF support, CXF4 support, to make life a bit easier in terms of updating dot gain curves, spot colors, etc. We hope and plan to add an automatic way of updating curves to essentially create a script that does all the filtering that we would do normally. Okay, so rather than having to look through the open job window and select a number of jobs that have been done over a certain period of time on the same press using the same target and ink and paper configuration, we can set up some presets on a regular basis, and say, okay, eliminate the measurements with the bad solid primaries, eliminate the measurements with the bad overprints, because of course that will probably be an issue with the chemistry. We can add in some intelligence through having some presets, and then essentially either make it semi-automatic by clicking a button to do it, or just say every 2 weeks or every month, check these things over the previous month and update the curve automatically. And then finally, the new version of PostgreSQL 16 that we're using in pressSIGN 12 has the ability to use machine-based learning algorithms, colloquially known as AI. We are in discussion as to how to utilize this in the best way. We could, of course, start offering suggestions as to how to avoid print problems. That will require some training and essentially teaching the system how to print properly. So that could take time, but we're also thinking about enabling it to be more of a help assistant. So Cortana-esque or whatever. I'm trying to do this. How do I do it? And then rather than having to read the manual, the assistant comes back and tells you, which of course should mean that we don't have to do as much support, which is always good for both you and us. Okay. Lastly, talking about the manual is written as a how-to guide. It's always updated to include all the new features and how to use them. So if you don't know how to do something, please look at the manual first. The best way of doing that is to open a PDF and then do a search for the thing that you're looking for. Okay, and if you think there's a bug in the software, do a check for updates, or rather update to the latest version if you're not on the latest version, and then check again before reporting it, because half the time we've already fixed things before people have realized. Okay, so those are just a couple of little wishes that we'd like people to think about before asking for help. So that's the end of quite a nicely short webinar in terms of new features.